Welcome to Speakeasy Spirits. Today we're going to make some St. Patrick's Day cocktails. We're going to start with the Hearn cocktail, which is a variation on the classic Tipperary, which in turn is a variation on a Manhattan with a little something extra. And then we're going to make an Irish old-fashioned using a Guinness simple syrup. My go-to order for St. Patrick's Day always used to be a pour of whiskey and a Guinness. But today we're going to elevate Irish whiskey into a couple of really fantastic cocktails. If you want to order something Irish on St. Patrick's Day at the bar, you could do something as simple as have a Manhattan with an Irish whiskey. That's generally referred to as an emerald. You could go a step further and get a Tipperary. That's essentially a Manhattan with the addition of a little bit of herbal liqueur. But today I want to make the Hearn, which itself is a variation of the Tipperary. It uses the Irish whiskey, sweet vermouth, and herbal liqueur of the Tipperary, but in addition to that, it adds some absinthe and 2 different kinds of bitters. This step is optional, but for my stirred cocktails, I always like to put a glass in the freezer. Since it's a stirred cocktail, we're going to start with a mixing glass and some ice. To that, we're going to add 1.5 ounces of Irish whiskey. Today, I'm using this Powers whiskey, but any good Irish whiskey will do. You could use Jameson or Bushmills, whatever you've got on hand. Next we need 1.5 ounces of a sweet vermouth. I'm going to use this Punta Mess, but any sweet vermouth will do. Punta Mess is actually pretty strong flavors for a cocktail like this, but since we're adding the absinthe and the herbal liqueurs, strong flavors are really what's called for. Next we need 1/2 ounce of herbal liqueur. Today I'm using this Fascia Bruto Centerby. This is similar in a lot of ways to green chartreuse. There's also a lot of other options out there now for herbal liqueurs. Half an ounce. Next we need 2 dashes of absinthe. You won't usually find it in a dasher bottle. I like to use mine in an atomizer and just spray some on. But if you don't have that, all you need is a bottle of absinthe and a spoon. And we just want to add the smallest of amounts, not even a full spoonful. Maybe 1/2 of a bar spoon. That's all we're going to add right there. And last we're going to add some bitters. We're going to start with 2 dashes of Angostura orange bitters, or your preferred orange bitters. And then 2 dashes of your favorite bitters. I would normally use Angostura in this, but today we're going to use this black walnut bitters. This recipe comes from the Dead Rabbit, a bar in New York City, where they use their own house bitters, but since I don't have access to those, we're just going to use the combination of orange and black walnut bitters. Now, give this a stir for about 30 seconds. You want to make sure it's diluted properly and gets nice and cold. Now we're going to get our chilled glass out of the freezer. Strain. And for a garnish, we're going to use a strip of orange peel. We want to express the oils over the glass, and then you could just lay it on top. And that is the Hearn. That really packs a lot of flavor. The shortbread notes of the Irish whiskey really play well with the herbs of the vermouth and the herbal liqueur. There's a slight anise note on the finish from the absinthe, and the citrus and the spices of the bitters really balance out the sweetness of the vermouth. This is a great Irish cocktail for Manhattan drinkers. For our Irish old-fashioned, we're going to need a Guinness simple syrup, and that is super easy to make. We're going to start with a bottle of Guinness. And just add that to a pan and warm it up. First thing we need to do is knock the carbonation out of this and warm it up enough that the sugar will dissolve in there. That was an 11-ounce bottle of Guinness, so to that we're going to add 1.5 cups of sugar. Now pour this in slowly because it is going to make the beer foam and we don't want to make a mess. Give it a stir as it warms up until the sugar is integrated. It'll probably take about 5 minutes. And while you wait, go ahead and enjoy a glass of whiskey. If you haven't tried Irish whiskey, it differs in a lot of ways from a Scotch or a bourbon. Instead of the brown sugar and cherry notes of a bourbon, what's most common in Irish whiskey is a shortbread cookie note. Most Irish whiskeys aren't going to have that more peppery note that you'd associate with the rye in most American whiskey mashes. And that is all there is to a Guinness syrup. Now we just need to put this into a bottle. I always like to sanitize my bottles. I use a product called Star San, which is normally used in beer brewing. But if your dishwasher has a sanitized setting, or you can put it in some boiling water, that'll work almost as well. If you've sanitized your bottles correctly and you keep this in the refrigerator, this should probably last you for weeks, if not months. If you can't make enough cocktails to use this up, try picking up a pint of vanilla ice cream and pour some Guinness syrup over the top. Let's build our Irish Old Fashioned. We'll start with a rocks glass and 1 large cube of ice. Go ahead and let that chill. Now we're going to need our mixing glass, some ice, and 2 ounces of Irish whiskey. Now our Guinness simple syrup. I like this at around 1/4 ounce, but add as much as you like. I find with the Guinness simple syrup, you can go as high as 1/2 ounce, and it won't be too sweet, but you'll get some really good, bold Guinness flavor in there. And now our bitters. I'm going to use Angostura bitters, but go ahead and use whatever your favorite bitters is. About 2 to 3 dashes. Stir to chill and dilute. Our glass is starting to frost over, so we know it's nice and cold. Now we'll go ahead and strain that over our block of ice. And we'll add a strip of orange peel. Squeeze that over the top and just drop it down the side. There you have our Guinness Irish Old Fashioned. That shortbread cookie of the Irish whiskey, along with the chocolatey, spiced notes of the Guinness, really makes a great combination. It's got just a hint of creaminess from the stout. The orange oils add a nice touch to that chocolate. I think this is probably one of my favorite old-fashioned variations. Here's a couple of great Irish whiskey cocktails for your St. Patrick's Day or any time of the year. I hope you liked the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.